Good morning, or good evening, or afternoon, wherever you are. How's everyone doing today? Excited to paint? Yeah, me too. Today's could be fun. It could be a lot of chaos, but I think it's going to be fun. We're going to be doing one of these dice roll games in a minute. I will hold that up a little bit closer in case you need to take a screenshot. I also do have that posted on my story and then on my website if you'd prefer to like go somewhere and print it out, kind of a thing. Where's everybody joining from today? I'm going to get kind of set up while we're getting closer to the time. I've cut a bunch of little 4x3 or 4x4 type sheets here so that I have lots of options, and I'm going to table a couple of them down because we're going to be doing multiple of these. Hello, hello. It's now been like a month since I've been live, so we're going to have to get back into the swing of things together. Belgium, hello. What's the weather like in Belgium? Is it starting to cool down? Germany? Oh, we've got a European crowd today. Fun. The last time we did one of these dice roll ones, we did the birds, and they just ended up really funny, and so I'm hoping that we have some kind of fun. I mean, landscapes aren't as funny as birds with odd shapes, but I think we'll still have a ton of fun. Warming up again after a week of rain. We kind of had a similar thing. How do you make ivory color with watercolors? Make kind of a brownish yellow with tons and tons of water in it. Very light. From Atlanta, Oregon, Cali. How do you use gouache? I'm kind of wondering, so depending on, I'll let you guys kind of chime in on this too, but depending on how the first couple of these go, I have been having the itch to pull my gouache paints out again, so I might was maybe thinking maybe a couple of these, if the first couple of these go well, I might try to do with gouache. It's been a long time since I've painted with gouache, so it'll be kind of a relearning experience, but it might be kind of fun. I don't know, what do you guys think? Slovenia, Alabama, more Alabama. So these are just pieces of paper. I just took a big piece of paper and I just cut it into little pieces. It's actually a great way to also stretch your watercolor paper, because watercolor paper is not cheap. Las Vegas, Texas, Washington State, Spain, Philippines. Yeah, even like cheap watercolor is still kind of pricey. So that is one of my best tips to make your watercolor go far, is if you're gonna be practicing a lot and doing a lot of little things, is cut it up, and at least on some of them you can get, you know, like this was actually a pretty big, I think this is 11 by 14 page, and I think I got like 8 different little pieces. So Boston, Illinois. Hi, Monica. So, what's it better to invest in, quality watercolor paper or paint? Most watercolor teachers say paper, and paper does make a huge difference. However, because we're reusing it constantly and you have to constantly replace it, I tend to almost think paint and then paper. But that's just because, you know, the recurring cost is lower for less paper. So you're actually gonna be able to practice and paint more. And then like, once you kind of start to get the hang of things, then it's really when you can start to see the difference between the papers, is my personal opinion. But everybody's opinion on that kind of differs a little bit. If you do, as far as like cheap paper though, like make sure it is watercolor specific paper and 140 pound. Usually I paint with Canson XL on these types of classes because these are for beginners and that's what a lot of beginners have. I am out of it currently, so today I'm doing Fabriano and this is 25% cotton and then the rest is cellulose. It's a lot more textured than my normal paper, so we'll see how that works out. All right. So it is past the technical time of starting. So let's do a little introduction. My name is Lacey. I'm the artist behind Rebel Unicorn Crafts, and every other week, except for, well, the last 2 weeks, we do a live together and we paint in real time. Sometimes we do like a fun little activity, which is what we're going to do today. But this gives us an opportunity for you guys to ask questions and for me to go a little bit slower instead of having to speed everything up for, you know, the time limits and things like that. What we're going to do today is a dice roll painting class. So I've got my dice here ready to go. And this is the little guide we're going to do. We're going to do landscapes. So we do have a topic picked. We have sky options, middle ground options, other elements, and then the colors are all going to be determined by a roll of the dice. So we have some control over this, but we don't have total control. So if anybody needs to, I'm going to hold this up here for a couple more seconds. If you need to take a screenshot with kind of the things, if you want to paint along, I do recommend cutting up or taping off a couple different little squares or rectangles so that you can do a couple of these because they're fun. Is Winsor & Newton Cotman a good brand? A lot of people really like it. It's not one of my favorites, but it's not a bad selection. Okay, I'm gonna have this up here for another 3 seconds before I move this away. 3, 2, and 1. All right, so we're gonna actually just get kind of started with this, and I'll make little notes in the little borders here. So we're gonna start with our sky options. So I only need 1 dice for these first ones here because we only have 6 options. So our sky is going to be a night sky. All right, this is gonna be on this one. Night. Hopefully our color choices will actually help support that. Our middle ground is going to have vegetation of choice. Other elements, and if I feel like we're not filling everything in, we can always roll multiple times for different elements, but let's see. So other elements, we got plants. So we're going to have vegetation in the foreground and kind of the middle ground, I suppose. And then the colors, Monica is a former math teacher and she pointed this out to me, but so we have 12 colors, so technically we would need 2 dice for that, but that means that we would never get green if we rolled both dice. So we're going to start, let's do 3 colors. I'm going to start by rolling 1 dice so we have an opportunity to get green. And we did! Woo! That's good. Also, I think I'm going to turn on this light over here to see if that helps. I feel like we're a little bit dark today. There we go. I think that's a little better. Okay, so we got green. And now we'll roll with 2. 7 is silver. Ooh. Okay, hopefully we get a dark color. Now we are going to be able to mix colors, and so we can choose any green we like and things like that. And we've got 10, black. All right. Okay, I already know what we're going to do on this one. I'm going to leave it at 3. So we have a night sky with vegetation and plants. Now plants can be pretty much anything. Green, silver, and black. We're going to attempt to do a Northern Lights inspired painting with a bunch of trees kind of in the background and the foreground. So we'll see how this goes, but this is going to be our first one. Just so you guys know, the plan of attack is typically with these, because I've got 2 taped down to this. I will roll for all of these. I will paint the sky on this one. We'll roll for this one. We'll paint the sky on this one. Then we'll dry, and then we'll go through the layers. The next layer on this one, the next layer on this one, so that we're kind of working on 2 at the same time. So we're letting it soak in a little bit before we force it to dry. All right, everybody on the same page? Are we ready to actually get started? You have 3 dice? Ooh. Okay, all right. So we're gonna start by mixing up some of these colors so that we have them on hand. So I'm going to start by, I should have spritzed these actually earlier, but let's spritz them to get them kind of activated so they're ready for us to go. And we're going to be mixing up some colors because I want a couple different tones. I do want to push the limit a little bit and do kind of a blue-green. Then I'm going to want a bright green. We need a black, and then we have a silver here too. So I'm going to grab a little tester strip so that this is just kind of the excess from the paper that I cut up earlier. So I'll be able to actually test these colors. These watercolors are the ones I sell. Any sort of watercolors are going to work for today, and as I mix these colors up, I will try to use the more common names. So if you're following along with a different set, you'll be able to do this as well. Now I'm going to, it's been a while since I've been using my round brush because I've been really loving using quill brushes, but I kind of feel like painting with a round brush today. One question I've been getting recently, just as a little side tangent, is what's the best brush for beginners, or what brushes should beginners buy? And my answer to that is something with Taklon or synthetic bristles, because they have enough bounce where they move nicely, but not so much that you don't have any control. But usually you want a round brush with a nice tip on it in a size 8, 10, or 12. This is one that I sell. You don't have to use the one I sell though. I do really like the one I sell, but in order to participate, any sort of a round brush like this is going to be good. And the reason why I suggest one single brush is this is going to hold a ton of water, but we also have that really nice tip, and so we're going to be able to do details and things like that. We don't need a ton to get started. All right, so in order to mix up colors when we're working from pans, and we could later in this, we could work from tubes for some of them, if you guys want to see how that's done. I'm going to put a little water in these so that I can actually got a base to mix up these colors. You want to pre-wet your colors so that they actually kind of activate and you can grab the colors a little bit easier. So I'm going to be mixing up a bluish green, a bright green, and then a dark black color. And I think the silver is going to be perfect for adding the star highlights or maybe like a little comet or something. So I'm just going to start grabbing some of this. We're going to start with our bright green color we're doing an Aurora type or Northern Lights inspired painting for this because the dice gave us a pretty good roll on this. All right, let's test this. The reason why I like to do a tester, by the way, is that the color in here is going to look a lot more concentrated than when we actually put it on the paper. And so it's good to kind of just do a quick little test to make sure that the color that you're trying to use is actually the one you want. Now I'm going for a bright green. This is kind of a middle type green, or maybe even slightly like a yellow green. But I think I'm just going to stick with just this one single color and not modify this. I will change that a bit for the next one where we do actually mix it up. And let's just check. All right, that's more the actual saturation of or ratio of color to water that I want. On this next one, I'm going to be mixing up a slightly darker color that is a green blue. I'm going to start with that same base color. And then I'm going to dip into a couple different colors. The first of which is going to be this, which is kind of like a viridian green. So it's going to have some blue hues. It's kind of a teal type color. What can you do if you don't have watercolor and you can't buy any? Well, technically the exercise we're doing today, you could do with whatever you want. You're going to paint it a little bit different, obviously, because you're going to use different medium, but we're we're just creating things based on what the dice say. So you could use pens, markers, crayons, whatever you want. I do know that some people kind of make or can use markers like watercolors, but I have not tried that. Okay, so we're getting close to kind of a blue-green. I'm actually going to go over here, and this is kind of like a phthalo blue color. I'm going to grab a little of that because I want a little bit more blue tone to this. Maybe just a bit more. I can't go too far or we'll get more towards like blue-green. I want it to be more of a green-blue so that we are more true to what the dice have told us that we are supposed to be doing. There we go. I think that's probably about as far as I can push that before we're not really green anymore. Okay, so there's a question on, is it okay to mix in here? It kind of depends on how you're going to work. There is a little green in here, and in general, I personally don't mind that because then the next thing I can do is just wash my brush and then just swish and grab that excess stuff that has the green on it. It really is only going to affect the top layer of the watercolors, but a lot of times people will wash their brush in between dipping into different colors if they want to keep them cleaner. And that is a good idea. But at the same time, every time we wash our brush, we're introducing more water. So a lot of times it's going to further dilute the color that you're working on, which gives you a little bit more to work against. So oftentimes I don't do that. Yeah. All right. So now we're just going to go into this black because we need our black color here. And we could mix up a black, but I'm just going to go for the one I have that's right here. Let's just double check it. We need quite a bit more. Oh, of course, I've got a Moogie here. Moogie is my dog, just FYI. All right. Just dipping into this, swirling it around in here. Okay. There we go. That's closer. Let's do a couple more. Because it said black, didn't say gray. So we want this to be nice and dark. There we go. That's a little better. All right, so I've got our three colors mixed up here. Let's kind of reconfigure. I'm going to talk about my plan in order to get these northern lights. Now, northern lights are often kind of like, they're kind of swoopy like that. And what we want, they're usually a little more concentrated and colored on the top, and they get a little bit lighter at the bottom. So my general plan for this paper is dry. I'm going to start with this dry. I'm going to start by making a dark swab or swipe across the page with the black in kind of a loopy pattern. Then I'm going to add in some of this darker green blue color kind of on the top here. Then I'm going to wash my brush, refill it with this nice bright green color, and kind of drip it down here, pull it down, and wash my brush and pull it all the way to the bottom. I'm going to also be holding this at an angle, so everything's going to be flowing downwards. And hopefully this will work. If it doesn't work, well, that's okay. All right. So I've got my brush. I'm going to fill it with that black color here. Got lots of it in my brush. And we're going to put this just kind of on the top here. And this doesn't need to be super even because we're doing these northern lights. So there we go. I got kind of a swoopy type shape. I am going to wash my brush because I want that blue-green to really show, and I don't want it to be, it's going to be diluted a little bit, but I don't want it to be super diluted. Then I'm going to bring that color right along here. I'm using lots of water. Look how there's actually a line. Let's do a little bit more where it's actually kind of dripping and gathering. We want lots of water for this effect. Wash my brush. Now I'm going into this bright color, and I'll put more of it on one part and a little bit less over here. Then I'm going to wash my brush, put water in it, and let's just pull this down. Then I'm going to go back into this black just to kind of stop where that phenomena would kind of stop. And there we go. I'm going to pull that all the way down to the bottom. Ooh, I think that worked pretty good. This will look really good once we put in those other elements. I know it doesn't look like super great down here, but this will, I think, look really neat once we actually do get everything else in there. All right, so we're just gonna let that one settle and just kind of do its thing. For those of you who are following along, did you try this one or are you doing your own dice roll? I'm gonna go into the comments real quick before we start rolling for the next one. Would you ever consider using a brush per color? I have seen this tip a lot, and I think it's a great tip. It's not personally how I work, and I have been meaning to try, but then I just kind of like get in the groove. So I do like the idea of that because then you wouldn't have to constantly wash your brush. So I think that's a great idea. I think I would just, if that was how I'd kind of like learned or practiced into it, that would be great, but I'm afraid I would mess up the brushes, but we might try that soon. You're doing yours. How did the Northern Lights aspect of it go? That holding it at an angle is going to kind of really help to get that to kind of pull down. It's going to be the key. All right, we're going to roll for the next one while this one just kind of chills out. The bird sheet. Oh yes, I did fix that, by the way. So that should be up and ready to go. All right, we're going to roll for our next one. So we're going to start with the sky. All right, do you guys want to do another night or should I re-roll? Because we've got, night is going to be the, the number of the day, I suppose. This is going to be a lot of trust the process. And I will say this, what we're doing today is low pressure. These don't need to turn out perfect. They don't need to whatever, but the idea behind exercises like this is that it's going to give us a chance to kind of explore things that we wouldn't normally do. So we're intentionally pushing the boundaries. And if they fail, they fail. It's totally fine. But we're going to try to make them work and we're going to try to work through them. Reroll. All right. Let's re-roll for the sky. 6. Soft sunset. Ooh, so I'm kind of thinking a gradient. We'll see what the colors it gives me. Soft sunset. Middle ground. Water. Okay. Ooh, if we got birds, this would be good for, come on, 6 for the other elements. 3. A field. Okay, this is where it's going to get tricky because we're going to have to figure out how to put water and then also something kind of more in the foreground for a field. Okay. This one is the one I'm actually way more nervous about. Okay, for the colors, we're going to roll 3 times. The first time I'm going to roll with 1 dice. We have the opportunity to get green. We got blue. That bodes well for water. All right, second time and third time, we're going to roll with 2 dice. 7, silver. Okay. Apparently we're going to get a lot of silver and night rolls today. And 9, red. Whoa, okay. Okay. Well, that'll work. And the way that red's going to probably read in this, because we're going to do a soft sunset, is we're going to get some pinks along with this because we're going to be diluting that red in order to get a soft sunset. We will do a little pop of kind of more bright color. Okay, so we've got soft sunset with water, a field. I am concerned about the field, I got to tell you. I'm worried about how the field is going to go, especially with the colors that we have. But we're going to go for it. A poppy field, something like that. Yeah, that could be cool. We'll have to see. So my general thought on this one is we're gonna do a gradient. So we're gonna go from blue, it's gonna go to pink, and then maybe we'll have like a real pop of brighter red kind of along the horizon. And then in order to get a field but also have the water as the middle ground or where the horizon is, I'm kind of thinking the water will kind of be here. Can you even see that little mark I made? Not really. Let's make it a little darker so you can see it. And then let's make kind of the field come kind of like, maybe it's like this, like we're standing on the shore. So this will be our field and our water is going to be kind of over here. Okay? It's my general plan. Now, whether or not this is going to work is a whole nother story. Let's mix up our colors. We'll keep these ones here in case we get colors where we can reuse those. And then I'll mix up the blue and the red or pink, I suppose, type color. So the red in my palette is kind of like a cad red, but also kind of like a vermilion type color. So if you're using, that's kind of the color I'm going to be using for that. And then as far as, I'm thinking for blues, in order to go against that red, I'm kind of thinking more this like ultramarine or Prussian, this is my favorite one, but it has more of a green tint to it. And for some reason, it just doesn't feel like the right move as far as going with the pink and the red color of it all. So I think I'm going to go for this blue. And since it's a soft sunset, we don't need this to be super dark. So something like that's going to be good because I'm going to go from that to lighter, then to pink. Well, or red. Pink and red. All right, so we're going to take this. This is my red color. We're going to start with lots of water. So we've got kind of our nice red, which is going to dry as more of a pink, and then we'll also be able to dip straight into that. So we're going to start with the sky for this, but we're also going to probably do a little bit of the water just to kind of get started with it. Plan for this one is we're going to be stopping our sky about here where I've made that mark. We're going to start by filling our brush with this blue color. I'm going to wash my brush after 1 or 2 stripes. I've got my paper at an angle, by the way, because gravity really is one of the best tools in watercolor, so keep that in mind. If things are settling in a weird way, sometimes you need to either rest it or hold it at an angle. So blue, couple stripes, wash my brush, water 1 stripe, then I'm going to move into this pink, or, well, it's diluted red, and then I'm going to bring that all the way down to the bottom here, and then right along the bottom I'm going to put more saturated in my brush and just once everything is nice and wet. So we're going to start with this blue, making a stripe across once. Let's do another one about here. This is a soft sunset, so we're doing a gradient. Wash my brush, I've refilled it with water, and I'm going to pull that down here. So we've got kind of a nice beginning to this, and I'm going to dip into this pink or red color. And we're going to bring this down. This is going to mix a bit to give us some purple hues, but that's okay. We're rolling with it. Bring it all the way down here. I am going to dry my brush off and take a little of this excess standing water just so that it doesn't give me trouble in a minute. But then I'm going to take that kind of damp brush and I'm going to squiggle it around in that red. And then we're gonna do a pop right along the edge here. If I can make a straight line, straightish line, that's okay. And just kind of give it that little extra. I'm going to put a little bit more here, like maybe the sun is actually kind of over here, just a little bit. And we're going to let that kind of be soft. Now, since I concentrated most of this, I'm going to keep that in my brush. I concentrated most of this over here, and I'm going to make just a couple little... This will actually be better if I can set this down and go here. I'm going to be making some little reflections in the water of this color. So I'm kind of pre-building in a little bit of these colors in the water so that when we actually go to paint the rest of the water in, we have some of those colors kind of reflecting in. Okay. All right, so we've got our first layer done on both of these. How's everyone doing on your first 2? I'm going to go into the comments, and then in a moment we'll dry these and we'll move on to the next layers. Okay, so one of the questions is, do you allow yourself to mix the colors like red and blue so you can make a violet? Now, sometimes, yes. It kind of depends on what I'm feeling, but sometimes I will bend the rules if I feel like it really does kind of need a little something extra, and it's not like technically cheating because I'm still just using those colors. And you can kind of choose what you want to do for that. I'm trying to stay as close to these as I can, but sometimes I cheat a little bit. Let's see. We've got some beginners. Welcome, welcome. How many colors are in my case? So this is one that I sell, and I sell it with 18, so it actually ends here, and then this is open. And the reason why I keep it open is that you can then kind of customize your palette with whatever you want. Any type of watercolors that are sold in half pans, you can just slot right in there. And then a comment about my nails. I do really like this pattern. They've seen better days. I started using press-ons, and they can actually last a really long time. There's a ton of good tips here on TikTok, but they stand up. Like, I was actually throwing something with red clay, which is why my hands are all stained and kind of a little gross looking. I should have thought about that before I got onto live, but of course I decided to throw this morning some different little bowls and things with this red clay. So yeah, but yeah, they stand up pretty good. These are been on for 2 weeks now. Tips for painting with non-dominant hand. I don't have any tips for this, but there is an artist on here who goes by the name of Not Sorry Art, and she doesn't paint with watercolor, but she talks about part of how she defined her style. I remember this, I swear I saw this video like a year ago, was she broke her dominant hand, and so she had like 6 months where she could only paint, and I think she was in art school or something, so she could only paint with her left hand, and so she might have some tips on that. I don't personally, because I haven't really tried with my non-dominant hand. Okay, so I'm gonna give these a good dry, and then we're gonna move on to the next. By the way, the question I'm currently getting probably the most is, what is my dryer? So look, it's from Chandler Tool. It's got 2 speeds on it, and you do want to make sure you don't let it just sit on one spot because you can burn the paper, so you do want to move this constantly. A hairdryer works great too, but I am going to be turning this on. TikTok does a pretty good job of muting this as background noise, but it can potentially be a little noisy, so if you're sensitive to noises, you might want to turn your volume down now, and I'll give you a countdown in 3, 2, and 1. All right, that should be dry. Also, since it sounds like we have some beginners on the chat, I don't know how often I actually mention why I dry between the layers, so let's just talk about that really quick. We're kind of locking that previous layer in place, meaning that when we then add in our additional things, it's still behind, but also we're not going to get fuzziness, and the next things that we put on are going to be defined and set apart from the previous layer. So we're not going to have it kind of all bleeding together. Keep the paper from wrinkling. 1 is tape it down. 2 is drying it. As it dries, it will flatten quite a bit. All right, we're going to keep in mind here that this is a very kind community, and there are people who watch this with babies sleeping and things like that, and so that's, or other reasons that you might have for why you might need a warning for a dryer, and so that's why I give that. This world is coming to a kinder place. That's what it's coming to. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we've got vegetation and plants. I think I'm just gonna lean into trees because I think it's gonna look the best with this composition. So we're gonna be working in basically 2 to 3 layers. I'm gonna do a layer here where I'm just gonna kind of tap my brush with a this lighter gray color, just along here to define something in the background. And then we'll do another couple layers so that it looks kind of like a little bit of a forest or something. Maybe we'll even come in the last layer and actually add in some different things so that we're seeing the Aurora Borealis kind of peeking through them. Casey, Lacey, Stacy. It's okay. As long as it rhymes, I'll probably answer to it. Lowest GSM that you can use for a watercolor paper, it really kind of depends. I recommend 140 pound. It's going to give you a lot less warping and stuff like that. But if you're really, really just wanting to like throw some colors down and you don't care how the results are, a 90 pound will work just fine. And you can get pretty good results on anything, but it is a little bit harder as it starts to warp. Okay. I'm using pounds. I'm sorry. So if we have people who can help do conversions, I think that's 300 GSM is 140 pound is 300 GSM. I don't know what 90 pounds relates or translates to. So if anybody has knows what 90 GSM or 90 pounds is in GSM, please put that in the chat. Okay, so I'm going to come in here, I'm going to test this color again, because it has dried a little bit, so for the first layer, this is going to be too dark. When we're working with kind of background, foreground elements, we want to start with a lighter color, so this is a pretty dark color for a background layer, so I'm going to put a little more water in there, just to kind of dilute this. Let's just mix that in and test it again. We are going over a pretty dark color, so we can use a bit of a darker color, but I want there to be some room to go a bit darker. So I'm going to put a little bit more water in here, just a little bit. Maybe just a little bit more. I'm painting on a paper that's 25% cotton currently today. There we go. Let's do that one. All right, so we're going to keep this first layer simple because this is kind of in the background or the middle ground, I suppose. I guess technically our background is this, the sky. But things that are further away are going to be less defined, so we don't need to do a ton of work on this. You can if you want to, but I'm just going to take my brush and just kind of tap it because I'm kind of trying to allude to, hey, it's a forest, but I don't want to have to do the work of painting each individual tree. So we're just going to tap up and down. There we go. And then I'm going to wash my brush and just soften that to the bottom. Ooh, I like it already. That looks so neat. I would love to be standing in like a forest somewhere looking out at an aurora like this. Look at that. Cheater trees, yes. Okay. 90 pounds is 165 GSM. Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm just going to get a little water. All right. So what we're going to do on this one is we can actually work on a couple things. So what I'm going to do is I need to wash my brush because I think I still have some of that black or gray in there. And then let's allude to, we're going to do two things to kind of allude to the water. And we do have silver, so we can do highlights in silver, but one of the keys I find for water is leaving white space. So let's do a little demonstration here. So in my brush, I don't want to just completely cover a whole area because it's going to look flat. What I want to instead do is kind of leave some little gaps because look how we're kind of seeing how the water is maybe rippling a little bit. The other thing you can do is fill your brush and then tap it so that there's still some of that color, but it's a little bit drier. And then we can actually do some kind of dry brushing if you want to add in a little more texture onto this. So you've got a couple different options, but I'm working on some of the water here. So I'm going to start with a little bit of this blue in, and we're going to just kind of make some little ripples and things like that right along here. This is actually, I'm going to get a little darker blue because I want this to be, so I'm just putting a little bit more saturated here. I want there to be variation. I want there to be darker areas, lighter areas, and just kind of, we can always add in more. So I want to be a little bit, I'm doing way better over here with my really small little ones. I want to vary the height or the length. And then I'm going to tap this off. And let's try to do some kind of dry brushing where I just very lightly brush over this. These are really simple little landscapes. We could spend a ton of time on the water, but we're kind of working on kind of the illusion. The other thing is that I want to do is I'm going to put a little bit darker right along kind of that horizon line just to really define it. And I might actually go back over this in another layer with that silver. There we go. Now, these, I used a very light amount of water and color, so these are going to dry really fast, so I could work on this area. I am a little stumped. I got to be honest. I'm a little stumped as to how I'm going to make a field with blue, silver, and red. So let's see. What do I want to do? I'm going to, okay. I think I'm going to try to, I don't know. Let's just see what happens. I'm going to fill this whole area with blue, and we'll try to keep this one lighter. So this will be kind of darker blue. We're just going to fill it. This might not work. So if you're like, do not like what you just did, then you don't have to do that. All right, we're going to fill this area here. And then I'm going to go into more of a bright red, because again, things in the foreground are going to be brighter. And let's kind of tap at the top of this, because somebody said poppy fields. Ooh, this is bleeding too much. But we're just going to kind of create some, that doesn't look terrible. I mean, it's not great, but it's not terrible. I'm just going to kind of tap in there. Okay. I can always come in with some more, I think my final bit on this is going to be using that silver to add in some like little highlights in a couple areas. And I'm just going to let that be what it is. It's not great, but it's almost better than I expected because I was concerned about the colors. Yeah, it kind of looks like it's in shadow. Exactly. All right, cool. Again, I'm going to go through the comments just to make sure I haven't missed anything, and then we'll do another little dry session and finish off. Well, maybe finish off. This one I might want to do another 2 layers on this. I haven't entirely decided, so we'll have to kind of wait and see. But yeah, all right, let's go through the comments. Oh, red and silver sand, that would have been good. But it did say field. I guess we could have redefined field to be beach because I didn't have an option on there for that. Class is awesome, but it's midnight here. Yeah, this will be reposted eventually as long as TikTok saves it. A lavender field would have been pretty, and we'll get some kind of lavenders in there. Rocks would have been good too. Why didn't I should have put rocks on the other elements. That would have been a good one. It's every other Sunday. Brine water salt fields. Oh, lovely. Okay, we're going to dry again. Again, if you need to, you can turn down the volume on this. And I'm going to be turning it on in 3, 2, and 1. All right, those should be pretty much dry. One other thing that I don't talk about very often, but is a good thing to note, is that when you are drying this, you are heating that paper up, and it can affect when you do your next layer. Like, as a matter of fact, you can kind of see here where it kind of, that was part what I did with the technique, but also part that the paper's still a little bit warm, and so it's like trying to dry in certain areas. So if we can wait for a minute for this to kind of cool down and come back to an equilibrium of like the state it's at instead of being like actively kind of dried by the heat, that can be good. And so in the meantime, I'm going to darken this color that I used here because I want to do another layer of those cheater trees, because I do think I'm going to do maybe three layers on this one. I haven't entirely decided, but I do think it needs something. So I'm going to darken this color a little bit by adding in more of that black. And I'm also going to respray my silver because we can probably also start to allude to some of those stars and things in the sky. If you don't have silver, that's totally fine. You could use a white gel pen. You could use whatever color you do have, or I think that this will actually, both of these will probably be fine without the silver. I do think they're going to add a little something extra, but you don't have to have it. All right, that's a little bit darker. Perfect. Okay, we're still doing those cheater trees for this one. And I'm just going to kind of go in a slightly different shape to kind of allude to maybe there are like layers of these mountains. Okay, I'm just tapping my brush up and down, alluding to how the tops kind of might be. Let's put that down here, and then I'm going to wash my brush and I'll just pull this down to the bottom. I do really like this one so far, so I wish that I'd gotten trees, and then I wish I'd gotten a path, because that would be really neat. But we're going to go with what the dice say. All right, I'm going to wash my brush, and then let's try to dip in, because I think on this one, the last bit I'm going to do is just add in some little silver glints, maybe even kind of on the tops of these, and also in the sky. So with most metallic watercolors, the more you let the water sit on there, the better it's going to be, because you can actually get quite a bit of that. We're going to start up here. Let's put a couple little stars in the sky. Because these will take a bit to dry. Okay, just putting a couple up there. And these will become more shimmery as they dry, hopefully, if I've actually got enough on my brush. Now I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to do the same, but I'm just going to kind of flick in just a couple little areas, just to kind of like catch where the light might be hitting this still just a little bit, and just a couple little areas. And then kind of thinking along, oh, you can kind of see can you see? I can see the shimmer right now, but I don't feel like the camera is picking up the shimmer. I'm going to put a little bit on the tops of these. Maybe even kind of scribble around to give them a little kind of definition. I don't know if this is really going to add much of anything, but it's what I'm doing, so it's what's happening. I kind of feel like I want to put a line across the horizon too of this silver. Oops, I got a little bit thick there. There we go. Now you can kind of see the shimmer. I feel like it's not coming off super well on the camera, but it is shimmering. Reminds me of coral. Yeah, this kind of does look like coral, although it doesn't make sense why it would be up there, but you know. Okay. So again, I'm going to dry this, and then we're going to add in, I think I'm just going to finish this off with one really dark layer of trees down here, and we'll just kind of call that one good so that we can do some more, because I want to do some more little explorations. I feel like this one we could work on a lot more and do some really fun things with, but For now, I want to move on to another one. So I'm going to be drying this. Again, if you need to turn your volume down for a bit, this is the time to do that. And it's going to be turned on in 3, 2, and 1. Okay, there we go. We are good. Let's see if you guys can see the shimmer. Is it going to pick up the shimmer? I feel like the camera is oh, there we go. You can kind of see it there. Okay. Now I want my next one to be super dark. I do need to make sure I've got quite a bit of it. This is one of the challenging things about getting dark colors with watercolor is that you really have to, if you want to do a large area of dark colors, you do really, really, really need to just spend some time swishing in and then combining in together. Watercolor dries lighter, so even with a dark color like this, it's still going to dry kind of like a gray. So I'm going to push it a little beyond there. I'm getting closer. And I'm kind of tempted at the very top of this line of trees. We're just going to keep doing those cheater trees because I think it'll still look nice. But I'm kind of tempted to drop a little of that silver at the top of the cheater trees. What do we think about that? Should I do that, or should I just leave it kind of this matte black color? All right, I'm going to do my final layer on this one. Cheater trees, where we just tap, 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 and I'm going to bring this all the way down to the bottom with that dark color. Filling in as I go. Okay. Ooh. I like it. Now I'm afraid to add anything to it. Ooh, I'm sorry. I think I might have had that almost out of frame when I was doing that. The silver would be great. Okay, we're going to try it. We're going to try it. So I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to put a bunch of this silver in my brush. And let's just try to tippy-tappy right at the tops. If it's already kind of drying at the tops of these, but if I can kind of tap it in, it might bleed in just a little bit and add some interesting effects. You know, some of these things I don't know if they're going to work super good or not. And so it's kind of a fun little exercise where we get to see what things do and do not work. All right, I'm getting some kind of separation. Now, this is the other tricky thing. When we layer and layer and layer all these dark colors together, when we add this layer on, we want to very lightly touch to kind of like smooth it over with just the surface tension, because otherwise we're kind of picking up the pigment as we go. Ooh, I like that one a lot. I cannot wait to take off the tape on that one. I'm going to let it just kind of chill out though, and we're going to actually move on to the next two. Now, before we move on to the next two, because we are going to have to roll for them, do we want to switch over to a different palette? We can use my handmades. I could use tube paints. I could use, I've got Winsor, I've got Koi, I've got a ton of different palettes. So if we want to move over to a different type of palette, if you want to see it demonstrated with something else, let me know. Your cheater trees betrayed you. Oh no. Okay, we got 2 for Winsor, 3 for Winsor, a couple for tube, a couple for core. And okay, I have a feeling Winsor is going to All right, I think Windsor is one, and I do want to make sure, hold on, let me go grab them. Oh, my palette is very messy. This is an old one. So these are my Windsor colors, and I don't mind switching over to different types of colors and things because I do know that we have like a really international audience here, and these are some of the ones that are most widely available. And so sometimes, even though these are not my favorites, these are not my favorite paints, I do like to paint with these because there's probably far more of you who actually have these paints, and I don't want you to ever feel like you can't do what I'm doing because you don't have the exact same supplies, whether it's because you can't get them or you don't want to have to purchase another thing. Like, that's totally fine. This community is just all about us painting together and just kind of experimenting and not putting so many roadblocks. So we don't need to put supply roadblocks in the way either. Okay, I'm just kind of wiping out some of these palettes so I'll actually be able to mix up the colors that the dice tell me to. Using watercolor markers. I do like watercolor markers. I've got some. People often ask me for watercolor pencil things. I cannot get into watercolor pencils. I don't know what it is. Something about them just does not do it for me. It doesn't mean they're a bad supply. It's just I try to use them and I'm like, this is disappointing. Also, this is core right here because even when I was painting with these the last time, I was craving a bit more pink color, and I love, or magenta color, and I love that. The quinacridone magenta from Core. It's probably my favorite color. Okay. So this is the middle, I suppose, because, oh, wow, we are running toward time. I want to do two more, so I'm going to do two more. We're kind of starting over, in essence, so if you're just joining now, it's fine. You're along for the ride. We're doing dice roll painting. These were the ones that the dice decided on the previous time, and in a minute I'll take the tape off of this. I'm just letting that kind of dry in. But we're going to start rolling for these next ones, and we've switched over to Winsor Newton. I'm going to give them a spritz. And I'm doing this, we're using these ones because I know this is a more common palette that people have kind of all around the world, so we're going to do this one. All right, we are going to try to do this one a little bit faster, so I probably am going to be explaining a little bit less. I will still do my best to explain as I go along, and I have lost my pen. Where did it go? I used it just a bit ago. Here it is. Okay. All right, so if you're just joining now and you want to take a quick screenshot, I'll hold this up for a second. We're going to be rolling for each of these, a sky, a middle ground, other elements, and then 3 colors. This will be up here if you want to do a screenshot for another 3, 2, 1. I also have it on my story, and I also have it on my website. All right, so for the top one, we're going to try to do this. This is a speed dice roll because I will be hungry soon, so. All right, speed dice roll for the first one. We only need 1 dice, actually, because there's only 6 options. Bright, but with clouds. Okay. Bright with clouds. All right, the middle ground is going to have... Oh, it can't be screenshot. It's okay. Well, you can grab it on my my website, or I don't want to do water. Are you guys okay with me re-rolling so we don't have water? Sure. Okay. All right. I don't want water. All right. Let's do jagged mountains. Ooh, I like that. Now, I like water. I just feel like it really limits what we can do. So I almost didn't put water on there, but I did. All right, now for our other elements, we've got a road. Ooh, okay, this is gonna be fun. For our colors, the first time I'm going to roll for 3 colors. We could do 4. You could do as many as you want. You could even just do 1 or 2. But if you're going to do more than 1, if you want the chance of actually getting green, you have to roll 1 of the dice with just 1. So we're going to start with that. So 3, we got purple. Love it. Okay, cool. We're getting some different stuff. Now I'm going to roll for the other 2 with 2 dice. Water could be rain. Oh, that's smart. That's smart. Hadn't thought about that. 7 is silver. Oh my gosh, it wants silver. Do you remember on the last dice roll one, it really wanted gold? Well, today it did the TikTok filter and it's found out it's a silver girly, not a gold girly. So I guess we're doing silver. All right, and let's do one more color. We got 8. Yellow. Okay. All right. I mean, those are compliments, and I might do a little cheating and do a little mixing of purple and yellow to get some kind of more neutral colors. Also, we are going to have to mix a purple because this set that I have here doesn't have a purple, but that's fine. All right, so we're going to get we're going to do bright with clouds. We've got a purple. We're going to do a purple sky. Okay, let's mix this up. Next time, make green 7. Oh, that's smart. I wonder if the bird one was 7, if the gold was 7. I hadn't even thought about that. All right, so we've got to mix up a purple color. Yeah, you could do one color, but different shades. Absolutely. All right, so I'm going to take this. This is ultramarine blue. I do need to have a decent amount of this in order to actually cover the sky. So let's put a little water. We're making purple. We're going to go ultramarine, and then this is, I don't actually know what this red is. It might be cad red. And I'm going to wash my brush before I grab this. Now I'm not going to wash it that time. That's okay. Let's see what we got. That's a pretty nice purple. I mean, it's a little bit muted, but it's a pretty nice purple. Do you think we should keep it as this purple, or should I push it a little more towards the blue side? Or I feel like that is already kind of a bluish purple, but keep. All right. Okay, so it's going to be bright with clouds. When I said that, I was kind of meaning, like where it's like, it's cloudy, but it's not, like they're like scattered clouds. So this is one of my favorite little techniques to do, where we're going to do some lifting. If you have paper towels, this is even better. If you grab the paper towel, and then we're going to crumple it like that, and then tear it. These are going to be our little clouds that we're going to lift out once we put that purple down. Now this one, my general plan, I'm not going to actually sketch this just because the mountains I want to kind of do as I paint them, but I'm going to be ending this about here, the sky about here, because I want the road to be able to be whatever color or not impacted as far as like how dark it is based on what I do in the sky. So I'm going to be moving kind of quickly on this one, partially for time and partially because I need to be ready to go, where I've got these ready to go, because while it's still wet is when we want to lift these out. All right, so I'm going to put this in my brush. I'm going to make a stripe across, refill, stripe across. I've got my paper at an angle, pulling this down. And I'm going real fast. Now this doesn't need to be a perfect wash because since we're going to be lifting out, we're going to have tons of texture anyways, so it doesn't really matter. All right, while this is still wettish, I'm going to take that torn area and let's lift out some clouds. Look at that. Rotate. We've got some clouds. I'm going to do some more. I've got another one over here. If you didn't do it fast enough, what we can actually do, first off, I do need to dry my brush and then grab a little of that excess that's right here. And if you didn't do it fast enough and you're like, my clouds aren't lifting, you can take a damp brush and kind of tap around. And then we can lift to get some of those clouds. Just like that. I used, I think it's, is it Cad Red? What is this? Yeah, Rose Cad Hue, I think. And then Ultramarine. Okay, so we got our first layer. Now we got to roll for our second one. We're going to let that one dry. I am excited about this one. Let's see if I'm as excited about the second one. All right, so for our first one, what's our sky going to be for the second one? We're going to get a vivid sunset. Love it. Okay, I am excited because those are my favorite things to paint, but a vivid sunset. Our middle ground is going to be vegetation. We've already done this one, but that's okay. And our other element is going to be flowers. Okay, we will try. I will do my best. We're going to allude to a flower field on this one. And then let's get our colors on this one. So first, 5. That orange, that's perfect for a sunset. And then we're going to roll a 2 for the other 2 colors. 9, red, also, that's 9, yeah, okay. For a second I was like, do I not know how to count? It's also perfect for a vivid sunset. And 8, yellow. Oh my gosh, it knew we were doing a sunset. Perfect. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to wash my brush, and I am not going to mix up a ton of color. I am going to do a little maintenance here. I don't know if you can see, I've got some green on the tops of some of these because I was mixing, just kind of going with it. I don't really want a lot of green in my sunset, so I'm just going to take a clean brush and just kind of wipe off that top layer. Just so that I can prevent that. Okay, so the way that I typically think of a sunset when we're thinking of these colors is I might kind of actually start with kind of a lighter orange, a lighter yellow, then go into some real bright reds, and then a real bright spot of yellow. So let's actually do this one as wet on the wet. So I'm going to wet the whole thing. Okay. I'm going to put water in my brush, and I'm just going to put a nice coat of water over this entire page so that we can get these colors to really flow together. Okay, now you'll notice that when I'm doing that, I'm kind of tilting my page. What I'm trying to do is find the reflection so I can actually see how wet it is, because I just want it to be kind of an even amount of wetness. Okay, so we got orange. I'm just going to dip straight into this. I think this is a vermilion orange, and I'm going to put a little of that yellow, which I think is that like medium yellow or something, and let's put that across the top. I'm going to put a little more water in my brush to dilute it. It's nice and wet, so we can kind of scribble around a bit. And now let's go into more of a yellow. Woo, that might have been too much. A little more water in my brush, but we said vivid sunset, so it's going to be giving vivid. Oh no, I'm getting some of the black from my pen. Whoops, whoopsie, whoopsie. A little more orange. Let's get some of that red. This is that, I think it's Rose Cad Hue. And I'm going to kind of touch this like it's little clouds or something. This is one of the reasons why I don't love Winsor Newton is I love most magentas for me, like really just kind of shoot out. And this one, it kind of just sinks. And I do like some colors that sink, but I love when the magenta colors kind of shoot. So I'm just kind of tapping, Trying to do some like little clouds because we have a vivid sunset, so we're going for vivid. And let's get even more of that yellow. Let's go into that lemon yellow type color. Let's really get that over here. Okay, that's a pretty vivid sunset. We can always do a second layer if we need to. I don't know if we've got time though today, so we're gonna have to go with it. I might let this sit for just a second before I want to add even more of this red. Okay, I'm letting it soak in just a bit because in certain areas I want it to be more concentrated. So we're just going to lightly tap. Just to make it a little more vivid. So I know that I say that this one's not my favorite palette. I will tell you, I love, love, love the yellow ochre in this palette. They're more neutral colors in this palette I do think are really nice. So if you are more of a person that likes to paint with more neutral colors, I do think this is a good palette. Okay. There, I like that. I'm going to leave that like that, I think. Yeah, in case people aren't keeping up with the chat, but people are asking about supplies, I did make a supply guide. It's free to download on my website, and it is all my personal opinions, but like I put in a bunch of different supplies, and I put them where applicable in like a budget, a mid-range, and then a splurge-worthy category, so that depending on, you know, what your budget range is, you can actually kind of get some specific recommendations. Okay, so I do need to dry this. Okay, I do like I kind of like what's going on here. I think once this is framed with the colors, it'll look really good. We might cheat and do some pen details for the flowers in this one on the foreground. I don't know yet. We'll see. Okay, so we're gonna dry. If anybody needs to, turn your volume down now for a bit. It's gonna be on in 3, 2, and 1. All right. So for this one, I am going to cheat and I am going to mix my purple and yellow together to get kind of more of a grayish brown color for the mountains. I guess kind of because I have to mix up more. I need this to be a little bit darker. Probably should have gone with a slightly lighter sky in order to be able to get more kind of depth on these, but hey, we didn't, so we just got to roll with it. All right, so I'm getting a darker purple, and then I'm going to mute it a bit with a yellow. I think I'm going to use yellow ochre again, because this is one of those colors I said I do really like in here. We don't want a ton, we just want a little bit. So I put a little over there, and then it's going to allow me to get kind of more of this more muted color. So we're going to do that color. And we got jagged mountains. So let's do some jagged mountains. So I'm going to come up. I should have mixed up more of this color, but oh well. Kind of similar to how we did the trees, honestly. Where I'm taking the tip of the brush but I'm dragging this more than tapping. Those are pretty jagged. I don't know if they're super jagged, but they are. I mean, like I wouldn't want to fall on the top of one of those. Okay. All right, we're also I'm gonna mark where the road is going to be. Let's have the road vanish over here. So that's gonna be part of it. It's gonna be way smaller at this end and then way bigger over here. Probably actually a little bit smaller there. Go way bigger and maybe even come kind of further out this way. I'm gonna fill that in just with a little bit of that color just so I kind of remember what I wanted to do with this for the next layer, because I'm going to do a couple more layers of mountains. But we've got kind of the basic part of this. And then for this, then we're going to do vegetation, and then we have flowers. With the colors, how are we going to be able to differentiate what's in the background versus kind of the flowers in the foreground? All right, so we're gonna use, let's put some water in this for our red, and we'll pretend like that red's really hitting the tops. This is gonna be kind of a lighter color. I'm gonna go across. I'm gonna kind of pretend like there's like a line of like trees, but not like pine trees, more like you're looking out on the plains and you see a lot of trees kind of in the foreground or big bushes. So I'm gonna make this kind of right along here, maybe just a little bit more of that color. And I'm gonna make a line just to kind of guide myself a little bit. And then we're just gonna kind of squiggle. This does need to be a little darker, I think. Not a ton, but a little bit darker. And I just kind of squiggle just a little bit. Now, you don't have to do, obviously, you know, as you're doing this, if you have a better idea, do the better idea. The whole thing about this is to figure out how to work within the constraints that we're given. So we've got a line of, this is our vegetation. We're alluding to the vegetation. Okay, all right, I'm going to do another quick dry. So again, if you need to turn your volume down, you want to do that now, and it's going to be on in 3, 2, and 1. Alrighty. So I want to do another layer of jagged mountains on this one for sure. I also really need to clean up. I don't love how I accidentally kind of went down over here. I think I might have kind of ruined the line of that, but that's okay. We're going to go with it. And I do need to mix up a decent amount of this, so let's re-spritz these. Let's go in here and get more so that I actually have quite a bit to go for this next layer. And we have to mix up our purple. I got to get lots of that blue in there because I need this to be a darker color than the previous one. So I need lots and lots of that saturation. And then we're going to get some of this. Probably should have washed my brush, but I didn't. Let's just check in and see what our saturation level is. Need even more. Anybody have any fun plans for the holiday weekend? I still need more. This needs to be darker. I'll just be here trying to mix a darker purple all weekend. Where do I get my ideas from? This varies. Some of them are just things that I like look at in nature or just have an idea of like, oh, it'd be fun to try to like layer this or something. Um, I'm speaking today, I'm speaking from more like a wider thing. As far as like what I painted today and the ideas I had, it's just kind of what's coming to my brain. But like, I do recommend when you're getting started, follow lots of artists and see what they're doing. And, you don't want to copy anybody, but, for your own purposes, like you can do some little sketches to try of and little experiments on what people are doing as long as you're not selling it. Like that's totally fine. That's totally good. And just kind of like expose yourself to lots of different art and lots of different things. I don't know. And then it kind of comes. Also practice. Like I used to sit down and I would tape out like 12 of these pieces of paper about these sizes, and I would try to work with like a limited color palette, and I would try to see how many different variations I could make of like the same painting, but it was different. And just kind of doing that over and over again really kind of helped stretch and help me understand all the different like possibilities of things. Cleaning, fireworks. Let's see. Oh, what people are doing this weekend, by the way. I just changed subjects. Um, Celebrating a birthday. Happy birthday. Rest. Very nice. Yeah, I'm going to add some yellow for sure. Okay, let's add that yellow in. Because, yeah, it is darker, but it's also, we wanted this to be a little more muted. So let's add it. There we go. Also, do you guys see how that's kind of separating away from the paper? Most of you probably know this, but that's because that's where my hand's been. And the oils from my hands are making that separate. So it is a good idea to come in with really fresh, clean hands. I did put like face lotion on right before I did this, and then that wasn't very smart. But so anywhere you touch, you can actually kind of make the paper come away. All right, so I'm just going to tap up and down. Well, actually not tapping. Sorry, we're not doing trees. We're doing jagged mountains. I want lots of, these are kind of like, what are these mountains? They're in Wyoming. This will come to me. What is it called? What are these? What are the mountains in Wyoming? The really jagged ones called? I know what they're called, but I can't remember. Not the Rocky Mountains. These are, oh, it's going to come to me probably like right after we end this live. Okay, so I've got a second layer. I might have to, for this, just to get it darker, I might have to add in some black to this. Because I think I want to do a third layer, and then we're going to mess around with the yellow in the foreground too. Teton, yes, the Teton. That's what I was thinking of. The Grand Tetons, yes. All right, so for this one, okay, my plan, because our last things we have to do on this one is we need to use yellow, red, orange, and we're putting in flowers. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to wet this bottom area, and I'm just going to drop really concentrated yellow, red, and orange right in there. I'm going to let it dry, and then I think I might come in with some pen details at the very end to like actually maybe hint to the flowers on a couple of them, is my thought on how I'm going to tackle the foreground on this. If you've got a different idea, then you should try a different idea, because I don't know if it's going to work, but that's kind of what I think I'm going to do. All right, so I'm going to start by re-wetting these. And then in a minute, we will actually review and see all the different things we did. I'll take off the tape, because the tape, when we take the tape off, it does help so much. It's like getting extra credit. You get like a little extra boost. All right, so I'm going to lightly put some water here. And then I'm going to put some orange. And let's just drippy drop that in here. Okay, let's get some red. I want this to be super vibrant, so I'm really putting a lot in my brush, or I thought I was. Very vibrant. Okay. I feel like this red is taunting me. It's like, I heard that you were talking about me, so I am not going to cooperate. Okay. Just putting a bunch down. The sunset does kind of have aura vibes. I could totally see that, yeah. Or aurora. Why is that in my brain that has started to stutter stop? Okay, let's get some bright yellow, and let's also do the same with that here. I mean, I can kind of see the flower field that's here. Oh, we should have done like in Holland, like those tulip fields. That would have been a cool idea. But it does kind of remind me of the desert. Okay, so again, I'm going to dry this real quick. I'm going to add in... Actually, this is dry enough at the bottom. Let's mess around with the foreground before I have to dry it anyways. Okay, so I think I want to do... I think the yellow I want to use is this yellow ochre for the foreground. I'm going to put in another layer of mountains, but I'm going to just kind of put this in the foreground, and I'm just going to kind of put it here and then wash my brush and then kind of bring it up towards that road. We still have to do silver, so I think I'm actually going to come in with silver on the road, and then maybe as like the caps of... Oh no, I got some water right here. Let's try to grab that real quick. The caps of the mountains. Give a little... Okay, so we've got kind of a nice... That is a nice color that goes in there, kind of complementary to the other ones. But what I want to do is... The parts of the road that when you're looking at them, like you could see into the sides, if we want to kind of up this to the next level, we can kind of add a little shadowing right along here to kind of show like where that whatever is growing is actually creating some shadow. It's going to give a little more depth too. So I would be able to see that part, and then I can see this part. See how that kind of pops that out a little bit? I guess we'd also be able to see a little bit here. Like rice fields? Oh, cool. And you know what? I'm going to tap around in here just to give a little variation with that color that's in my brush. None of this needs to be perfect. You know, we're just experimenting. We literally let dice tell us what to paint, so this does not need to be perfect. All right, now I am... Actually, I do like this one a lot more now that I've kind of added that in, especially when I added that bottom little depth to it. That helped. All right, let's dry these and let's add our finishing touches. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to just leave this one at 2 layers. I think I could use 3, but I am getting hungry, and I do also need to add silver into this one, and I need to add pen details to this one. All right, so if you are sensitive to noise, turn this down for just a minute because I'm going to turn this on in 3, 2, and 1. Alrighty. And I do have to use the silver from over here because this doesn't come with a silver color since we have silver as part of this. You could do like a gray if you don't have and you're just working with that Winsor Newton. Gray could be a good option, but I'm kind of excited about the idea of silver. So I'm going to do it. What am I going to be eating? I always, when I teach classes, I always just eat like some fruit in the morning and then I make like a big breakfast. So I'm going to make a big breakfast after this. It's more like big brunch at this point, but all right. So this one, I'm going to add in some silver. I think I'm going to add it like right in the road. And then I'm also going to add it like it's maybe hints to some, I don't know if it's going to work as the snow, but that's the idea, is that it's kind of like the snow on the tops of the mountains. So I'm going to leave a little bit where you can see, and I'm just going to kind of tap in a couple areas. Maybe there's a little, you know, patch of snow in some of these areas. Again, we're experimenting, so if this doesn't work, it's okay. Plus, if it doesn't work for me, and you're like, well, now I know I'm not going to do that. Okay, I feel like there's potential there. But let's add that silver into here. Maybe? I don't know if I'm also going to add it along the horizon line. Just because it said silver, so... You know what I should have done instead of doing silver watercolors? I should have done this with that silver pen. That would have been cool. Oh, boo. Okay. All right, we're going to cheat down here with a little pen. Yeah, exactly. These are the old pieces of sketchbooks. That's my favorite thing to use, but cardboard works well too. All right, so we're going to come in here and like, let's just pretend like some of these are little flowers. I think I should have kept it without it. But look, there's a flower. I should have kept it without the pen. That does not. The pen I use is also way too thick for how fine those details are going to be. I'm not gonna add any more. I don't think that helped. I do think I liked it better without it. So, there you go. All right, so let's take the tape off these. Let's review what we did today. In case you joined like just a little bit ago and you're like, what is going on? I do live classes every other week, and today's class we did a dice roll game where the dice decided basically all the details. Obviously, I had to decide how to smash them all together, but the dice told us the colors and the different elements. So I'm going to take this off. I'm using a super cheap duct tape. This is literally like the cheapest one I could find on Amazon, which is kind of funny, or not duct tape, sorry, masking tape, because, you know, the quality goes directly to it, but it's also pretty light and adhesive so that I can take this off. I do recommend, if you're worried about it ripping your paper, doing a couple things. One is you can heat it up, and then that will help release the adhesive. The second is that when you take it off, we don't want to pull like straight, like, because that's going to pull that edge. We want to actually grab it at an angle and kind of lift it like that. Okay, there we go. Okay, this one is probably my favorite. I do kind of wish I'd done some like bigger trees in the foreground, but you know, that's not what I decided to do. Little house would be cute. Oh yeah. Washi tape is also great. I do like washi tape. And then if you really want fancy tape, this is Debbie, our dispenser. Hello. This is Nichiban. I think it's 241 tape, and it smells like cedar when you heat it up, so it's kind of lovely. I think it's made of wood. And this is really, really good tape, but it is pricier. There we go. I really wish, honestly, if I had not added that, ended up being kind of a stupid little flower, or at least in my opinion. Not everybody has to agree. This might have been one of my favorite ones, but then I added that in. All right, let's get this one off, and we can see all 4 of them all together. Well, this was clearly a fun live for me because we went way over time. But I had a ton of fun doing this. I hope that you guys had fun too, and I hope that you took some liberties and kind of maybe interpreted some of the instructions a little different, because that's part of the fun of it. Let's try to see if we can actually see the silver. Ooh, that's kind of fun. You can kind of see the stars. All right, well, I hope that everybody had fun. I know I did. I really appreciate you guys spending some time with me, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll do another lesson. I don't know what it'll be yet. I often kind of wait to plan these till the last minute because I want to be excited to paint them, because I think that it makes for a more fun live, and also I do a better job, I believe, in actually explaining. So I do wait to kind of tell, but if you've got ideas or things you really, really want me to do, you can leave them in the comments, and sometimes that ekes into my brain and it can kind of become the topic and things like that. So I do appreciate when people do give me suggestions and things like that. I hope everybody has a really lovely weekend. If you're in the States, I hope that you have a nice little holiday or that you get some time off. And I will see you guys soon. Thanks again for joining me.